Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willie Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynn Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. Good evening and welcome once again to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. I am your host, Willie Hassell, your gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And she is the always lovely, she is the mystical, she is the mysterious Lynn Nickerson, and she's throwing papers all over the studio.
No, I'm not either. How are you doing, Willie?
I'm doing just fine. How are you tonight?
Yeah, good, great.
Great, excellent, okay.
Except for the weather. I always have to bring the weather up. It is cold and damp, and it's not very nice.
Well, I'm going to do the show next week by phone from Key West. So.
Can I come?
Sure, we'll both do it.
All right, because I haven't gotten an invitation yet.
Maybe we'll see if we can get Daryl to sit in and run the controls for us, and we'll just do remote. Okay. But anyway, tonight on Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, we have joining us here in the studio the Reverend Stephen Wilson and Reverend Bety Cumerford of the Spirit Light Network, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to studying and bringing to light the truth of life after death and other phenomena of the paranormal world. Steve is an ordained spiritualist minister, teacher, and certified shaman with more than 30 years of valuable and varied experience in the paranormal world. Steve is also a Reiki master and a medium. And Bety also is a ordained minister and a third-generation shaman, medium, teacher, and healer. She is also the author of Ghosts and Shamanic Tales of True Hauntings, a chronicle of the team's most interesting paranormal investigations. And together, Bety and Steve are co-authors of the book Reluctant Empath. And so now, let us welcome to the show Bety Cumerford and Steve Wilson. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, yes.
Pleasure. So,
thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the trip up here.
Where else would you want to be on a Saturday night? Think about it.
Well, that's what we think, but you know.
Except Key West, perhaps.
Well, yeah.
Well, we got a little preview backstage of what your background is, but could you both get into your background a little bit so that the audience has an idea of how the Spirit Light Network got developed, created?
Well, actually, it got developed out of all the shows on television.
Oh.
You know, all the paranormal shows and the ghost investigators and the ghost hunters and all of that. And people kept asking us, well, you know, it's wonderful that they do investigations, but what happens to the ghosts after they leave? And, you know, Steve and I talked for a long time about addressing that issue. And that's how the team really came together, was to help the dead cross. It's in my family, as a matter of fact. My grandparents are Cuban, and that's what they did. My grandmother was a physical medium, and she and my grandfather helped the dead cross.
Yeah, I was growing up, saw ghosts all the time.
Did you really?
Oh,
Yeah, we
constantly.
both
I was a
did,
little
yeah.
boy. It was crazy.
That must have been crazy.
It was. It's you know, part of my family came from a very deep spiritualist tradition, so it was all about that anyway. And I remember the first time I got whisked away to a spiritualist church. My uncle was up on stage and he was doing this mediumship thing, and I'm hearing this little kid, and all of a sudden he's reciting what he's hearing from a spirit, and I could see the spirit behind him talking to him. I was like, oh, and I could hear the same thing. So
could you really?
Yeah, it started from there, but as a little kid, you're kind of like, what's going on here? And you're trying to figure it out. And a lot of other phenomena. I was seeing a lot of psychic information all the time before somebody's going to pass, or people's auras, just lots and lots of stuff. And they kind of left me alone and let me figure it out along the way. So,
what sign are you, Steve?
I'm a Taurus.
Okay, and you, Betty?
Pisces.
Pisces. Oh, yeah, that fits in.
Double Taurus. Taurus and moon, Taurus and just...
Yeah, and what about your rising?
Leo.
That's why we get along, because my rising's Leo, too.
Oh, yeah, that's very cool. But as a child, what was it that you were seeing? Were you seeing, like, clear full body
apparitions
No
showing
kidding.
up in front of me?
Yes.
Hearing them. A lot of scary stuff. A lot of very, very scary stuff.
I suppose, seeing this right from being a young child, you probably thought, well, this is normal. Everybody sees this, right?
Yeah, until I got to be a teenager and I started trying to talk about it a little bit.
And then that's when you find
Then
out.
you find out, something's not right here.
Exactly.
But a lot of it also came, we were both finding out later on from Bety, we were both very empathic growing up.
Yeah.
So not only were we seeing and hearing, but we were feeling. And that was probably the bigger part of it all that really brought a lot of understanding into this, is actually feeling the angst of the spirit that was stuck, and the emotions, and never mind even the living feeling that, or getting into different spaces and places that had emotional contacts. We kind of named it photographic imprint. If something happened traumatic, it would actually it will leave an energy imprint in a space. So,
was it basically relatives that you were picking up on at first?
everything.
Not always, no. Yeah,
No?
he said
Well, just
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
What about like when you went to school?
Yes.
Yes.
It was mostly, in school for me, it was mostly all the kids. I was feeling everything they were feeling, and not being able to understand that. And so you get very overwhelmed with it.
You can, because some kids have really poor home lives and stuff like that.
But then you start to equate that when someone shows up in spirit, and they pop up in your room when they're looking at your window. I actually lived close to a rest home.
Did you
When I
really?
was a child, right up the street, and a lot of that was coming from there, as people had passed there. But feeling their emotions, and I'm feeling what people are feeling in life, and I'm feeling what people are feeling in death. So that turned into a lot of this.
It must have been really confusing at the time, too.
Yeah, counseling.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Did,
I had
to
a
be
lot
able to sort through it?
It didn't last very long because you learn to keep quiet, because all of a sudden you say something and you feel an adult all of a sudden change their emotions, and they get concerned, like, I better button my lips here. This doesn't feel good. So
Yep, they don't
learn
want you to
be
talk
quiet.
about it. Generally speaking, that's the way it was anyway.
Yeah, I was luckier than him because of the background. My mother was very open to this because she saw spirit too.
Well, that's good. Yeah, you were already broken in.
Right. Yeah. So I wasn't outside the house. I was treated weird, but inside the house, I was okay.
Well,
No such thing as weird.
Right.
given
Now-
that at one point you were near a rest home, do you feel that they gravitated to you, or why
That's
do
a
you
big.
think?
That's a really big part of this, and we actually discovered that along the way when we started the paranormal group. It's a lot of people are trying to prove, and get information, pictures, EVPs, all these kinds of things. So we put this group together, and we actually got a group of people who were very empathic and had a lot of what I'd call energy knowledge, okay, or sensitivity, and that in itself is almost like a big light, and it attracts.
Yeah, like a
and,
beacon.
Yes.
And most of the stories in the book there, we coined this phrase called haunted people.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many people are sensitive, and
Yeah.
they're just people. Things are gravitating to them. So
Okay, so you kind of think that's why the people from the rest home floated in.
no doubt in my mind, because they get proven over and over and over again as we went along.
Did they communicate with you in some way?
There was a lot of different kinds of experiences with the communication. I mean, sometimes
You were a child at this point,
Yes.
right? Yeah, okay.
And it really didn't sum up until I was probably about 14. Initially, what would be happening, people would show up, and you get into this thing where they don't even know they're dead. They're just kind of wandering around
I've
and
heard
doing the Groundhog Day kind of thing. Others would show up, and they'd want you to do something for them. It's like they felt a lot of angst about, I'm okay, please go tell this person or tell that person. And as a little kid, you're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, how can you possibly make those connections for
Yeah.
them?
Right.
Then all of a sudden, as a teenager one night, I laid down, and a big part of it is you go into these, I call them pre-dreaming stages where you start having vision, and all of a sudden this guy in a helicopter was showing up all the time. And,
A guy in a helicopter?
Yeah, it was like a Vietnam guy, like a Green Beret, and he'd show up, and I remember flying with him every night. I actually looked
Did you
forward to it.
really?
Yeah, it was a blast. It's like he'd show up, and my pre-dream, we'd fly around, had a blast, and all of a sudden one night after about 3 weeks of this, he started crying. And he said, I can't go. I'm stuck here. And it all dawned on me. And because he had killed somebody, I said, no, it's okay. And I just remember saying that simple, and feeling that it was okay. And poof, big burst of light, and he was gone. And that got my attention to take it into this next step. And so it wasn't so much about having to prove. It's like, okay, why?
Why are they here? Why are they stuck?
And what can we do about this? And I mean, that's a bigger picture, you know.
Yeah.
It's a much more poignant kind of thought process.
Because think about it. The veil between the living and the dead is getting thinner and thinner.
It seems
There's
to be,
more
doesn't it?
dead. And people and the living are feeling all of that.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
That's what we've noticed too. Were you kind of like broken in at home to this new world?
I had more abilities than my mother.
Did you really?
Mine were stronger for whatever reason. But as I said, I didn't feel weird at home because she had grown up that way, so it was
Yeah.
more accepted. But as I said, once I stepped outside the door and I would see things and feel things, you had to keep your mouth shut. You really couldn't. And I went to Catholic school. Didn't talk about it at all.
No, you didn't. No, they
way.
don't believe in ghosts. They don't. It's
no.
like the soul has no part
No.
in hanging around here. In fact,
I have a story about that.
oh, wonderful, please.
Actually, way back when I was ordained as a spiritualist minister, this woman, she used to work for a pretty big Catholic faith healer, and she was seeing somebody growing up constantly. And her parish church priest said, "We don't talk about those things. That's not good. Go home and say 50 Hail Marys and all this other kind of stuff." Then later on in life, she met another priest who actually did a lot of hands-on healing and stuff of that nature, and he says, "It's okay. Some of us do. We just don't talk about it."
Don't talk about it. Well, you know, it's like
That's
it's
our little
taboo.
secret.
Yes.
It's like the Catholic Church is off on another tangent
Well,
when it comes to spirituality.
we've met people from Ireland and stuff, and they always tell the story if there was something really over the top from a paranormal or a haunting, and over in England or something, they always call like the older grandmothers that were Irish that had this ability to actually
Yeah.
move things along.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to mention in the intro, for those of you who are not familiar with the book, that Willie and I have hosted a lot of investigative groups, and they've all been very interesting due to the content of their findings, as well as to the singular approach of the way they investigate the paranormal. But once again, I wanted to say that I'm surprised at yet another concept in dealing with haunted investigations as presented in Ghost and Shamanic Tales of True Hauntings. So I think it's probably safe to say that most of the members of the Spirit Light Network are psychic empaths, wouldn't you
Yep.
say?
Yes.
Okay. And they each contribute pieces of the puzzle of a haunting, and with the cooperation of their evidence and, in most of the cases, their research findings, they demystify the causes creating the disturbances. But this is where most investigators jump off the project. Spirit Light Network, however, goes one step further by providing an atmosphere of love and understanding that facilitates most of the troubled spirits to pass over and to go to the light where they're at a place of love and peace with the Creator. But this is a skill that's not embodied by most of the groups, which we've been talking about. It's a learned skill, and it's fascinating. It was fascinating for me to read how you guys make this all happen, because so many of the investigative groups seem to lack that last step or that last skill. And so they usually go outside of their group to have people like you come in and help them. But you're the whole package deal, which is really interesting. There are a lot of investigative groups out there, you know?
Yes.
So there were several things that struck me. Themes like you mentioned the energy, like energies attracting each other, like someone who might be an alcoholic is attracted to another alcoholic, or children to children, and soldiers to soldiers,
Right.
because they have that empathy. So would you like to talk about one particular investigation that really got to you? There were a couple that really hit me. The one about the soldiers, there were two of them about soldiers in particular that were just so moving.
Was that the World War One?
Yes.
That one really touched me.
Yes, when his buddies came to meet him.
Yes.
So perhaps you'd like to give us a little background on that. That
Was the one
wasn't
in Hartford.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
in Hartford. That wasn't the only entity there. There were a couple of other ones too. One being demonic, and then the young woman that had an abusive relationship.
Yes.
And then the gentleman who was watching over the brother of the sister that was watching over the family, I guess. Okay, so take it away.
Well, one thing that we would like to say is that despite what you see on television, demons are not that prevalent.
They're not, are they?
They
No,
really
it's-
aren't.
Really good ghosts at what they do, that are eliciting energy and fear from people, and it's you
And
see
they
it
use it, but
And they
over
use it.
and over and
Yes.
over again, and every single time it's a demon. It's a demon. It's, like, it's not a demon. It's a common street ghost who was kind of a jerk in life. Yeah.
We have that
I
saying,
caught it.
drama in life equals drama,
Drama
in
in
death.
death,
And if you're going to
yeah.
get someone who was a jerk in life, they're going to be a jerk in
I
death.
like that term, though, a common street ghost.
yeah, I think that's wonderful.
That's the majority of it.
Not your demonic variety here.
And the hard part is with, some, I'm not going to say groups, people in general, they instantly go into fear and they go into this drama, and all of a sudden there's this big energy field that goes out, that there's all kinds of things that just like to feed from it, and it attracts things. So it's like, so we see it over and over and over again. And it's like, you just kind of shake your head and do your best and you walk away. But
This was one of the few cases where we actually did run into a demonic
case.
figure. But that investigation was multi-layered.
It
because we did have the woman that called us, she was living in this house, and she always felt like she was being pushed, and there were things going on that made her feel very uncomfortable. And when we show up, one of the rules in our group is that we don't want to know the history. We don't want to know what's going
Yep.
on. We want to see what we get.
Yep, see what we get
psychically.
first.
So we didn't know anything about it. And another thing is, because drama in life equals drama in death, you can't go with the first thing that you get, because they're going to put a smoke screen up. Because many
That's
ghosts, if you
interesting.
think about the living, they don't want to know their private stories
Yeah.
told.
Yeah.
Well, ghosts
Yeah.
are just the same. They
ghost psychology or
Right,
energy
it's- yeah,
psychology.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all
I
got-
think I like
Psychology
that term.
101.
Yeah, it's all got flavors to it and energies, and it's like changing the channel, and you just kind of change the channel down till you get to the core root of why they're stuck.
Exactly.
And it's always usually something really simple, some of the basic parts of being a human being.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, one of your, I think he's been on this show. I think I can mention his name, Ron Kolick.
Oh, sure.
You know Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ron
he's-
had done
he's a
it.
friend of ours,
Right,
yeah.
so you know Ron.
Yep.
We were told by Ron about this place too, because
he got pushed in
he
the
was
cellar.
pushed in
Yeah.
the cellar and fell. So of course we had to go see what was going on,
We get bored.
because
I don't believe
we
that.
our motto is we tread where others dread,
Yeah, I think that is really cool.
because we're not afraid of it. We don't judge it. It is
Yeah.
what it is. So anyway, so we ended up going to this place, and as I said, it was very multi-layered. And it turned out that I had gone to the bathroom, and as soon as I go in the bathroom, I look in the mirror and I see the reflection of this young girl looking back at me. And you could tell she was beaten up. She just did look
Really?
like she had been abused. And slowly I got her story during the process that we were there. And it turned out she had been severely abused by her boyfriend. He ended up killing her. And the
And she
reason
came back for more.
and the reason that she was in that house, it had nothing to do with the house. It had nothing to do with the location. It turned out that the owner of the home, the living owner, had been abused by boyfriends and her husband. And
Was
that's
that
why she had left
Cindy?
him.
Was that her name?
I don't remember the name.
Or
We
were those
don't use the
people
real
renting?
names. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't use the real names. So
But the people that were living there, were they renting or did they own it?
I think they were renting.
Okay.
They were renting. So
But it had been the owner, you say.
So
then.
it had been so she
Yeah.
had been abused, and it's that like energy attracting like energy. The dead woman, that was the energy, unfortunately, she was used to in life, and she gravitated to this woman. The other haunting was the previous owner of the home.
Oh, sure, the gentleman.
The gentleman, as soon
Yeah.
as we pulled in,
He
we
was on
could
the
see
front
his
steps.
spirit sitting on the front steps, and
What,
he
with his
started
beer can?
right, his beer can. We could smell the beer, smell the cigarettes, and we're like, "Oh, this is going to be a fun one." And all we heard was like 4-letter words the whole time we were there. He hated her, he hated us, and every time he turned around, he wanted me to tell the woman that she's a big fat pig. I go, I can't tell her that. Come on, cut that out. So then, we started digging through his story, and it turned out that he had been a Vietnam vet and his friends had all been killed. He was the only one left. And his whole life, he carried that guilt with him. His marriage failed. His wife left him. He was an alcoholic and all that. So we were able to energetically reunite him with his friends.
Well, you did that in a room and you all sat in a circle.
Yes.
So when you started, I won't say channeling, but when you got your energy vibration elevated, did you all have the same images of the light and then his
Yes.
buddies coming?
Yes.
That's amazing that you experienced that in unison.
It's not that hard to do.
It isn't.
It's kind of, to me, it's sad that most people don't have that kind of experience. Because
Yeah.
I have it in everyday life all the time.
That's amazing.
And we kind of have taken this to this place where, there's learning what we learned about the afterlife actually gives us a bigger responsibility in life. 'Cause
It does.
Who wants to get stuck? Who wants to be a ghost? So how do you bring that not into your being or your experience? So a lot of studying along the way, different religious things and stuff like that. You have purgatory, and it's a very real experience. Or you have the Borneo and Buddhism and all these different kinds of things that allude back to that. But so when you're doing this kind of work in a circle, and you're increasing your vibration, everybody in the circle is going up with you, okay? And you can't help but feel that.
But to get the visual, that blows me away.
All the visual is an energy that's coming into you. That's all it really is.
But still, you're all getting the same image or impression or whatever.
I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to tell you that we did a fundraiser, and we did an investigation of one of the old plastic factories in, was it
I remember
Leominster?
that,
Plastic? Plastic.
Every once in a while we'll do a fundraiser, like we'll do a big public investigation and we'll put it out to the
Sure.
public, because people like to go on
Yeah. They
Halloween.
like to go and go.
right?
Yeah.
So
That
we,
was in Leominster?
It was in Leominster,
Leominster.
Massachusetts. It was an old
Okay.
plastic
And that's like
factory.
that's the beginning of the plastic industry was in
Okay.
Leominster.
Okay.
Big old warehouse. Okay. And we went ahead of time just to make sure there was some kind of paranormal activity happening. We were
Okay.
told about it. And so
Yeah.
sure enough, there was all kinds of things going on. And so we showed up with a group. We had about 70 people show up for it.
And we did a huge circle.
Get everybody cranked up energetically from doing some work with them. They all got all buzzed up, I guess you could say. And
That almost everyone felt and saw something.
yeah,
Really?
70 people
yeah.
who had never had this kind of experience before.
That's unreal.
And that's just bringing the vibration up. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
We're not special.
Well, you are.
what we do.
You are special.
Nah, other people
And
could do
well
this.
trained, too. That's to be taken into consideration.
Whether we liked it or not.
Even cursed.
Yeah, that's it. Some people think that. But the funny thing is, it's like, doing this all these years, it's like you'd be amazed how many people out there are having the same kinds of experiences, like feeling things and phantom health problems and, and random thoughts coming in and all these things. And it's like you get there and it's paranormal experience. They're picking up things around them and they don't feel safe to talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't have an avenue to share. And so we're seeing that more and more, especially young children. A lot of our phone calls are from parents.
Because of their children
Right.
being
children.
sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, they're hearing voices and they don't want to take them to a mental health place and start that whole regimen.
No, and
you
that's
know,
a
so
good thing.
a lot of that.
A lot of people still don't understand it.
And what a lot of paranormal investigators don't understand is that many times when they go into a place, it's not so much the place, it's the people around that are bringing stuff in that
Oh,
are
that's
attached
true.
to them.
Haunted
That's
people.
true.
Haunted people.
Spirits need energy to keep themselves maintained or
Yeah.
manifested here.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I was I played in a music business for quite a while. I was a guitar player, and I'd be surprised how many times I'd be up on stage and I'd see a spirit walk up behind somebody at the bar, and the person be drinking, and sooner or later, by the end of the night, I'd watch the spirit step into the person, and the person would black out.
Really?
Yeah,
You know how people drink and black out and they don't know what they did?
that's why.
That's why.
Seen it over and over and over. again.
Truly? No, I've never heard that before. I mean, I've heard people into drugs and alcohol perhaps being pursued by sometimes negative entities,
things.
but that I've never heard. Do you
Yeah.
suppose in that case it might have been a relative?
It could be,
Or
but
just
probably
randomness.
It's just another person hanging around a bar who's in the spirit world that wants to have that same energy of alcohol in their system.
And
yeah,
they
but
wanna
then
feel-
they pass out, though.
Well, yeah, sooner or later, you know. But it's kind of this thinking that, you know, when you step out of your body, you're a collection of all your experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. And it's kind of a flavor of energy. And so the way it got showed to me growing up, in my own visions and dreams and stuff, is like every life was a threshold that you had to attain. A bunch of circumstances would happen, some good, some bad. And as you accepted them or made the right decisions, your vibration would increase. And the analogy we use, how do you feel when you're depressed? You feel heavy as a rock and time drags. How do you feel when you're loved? You feel light as a feather and time flies. So there's some kind of experience that we have in life. So wherever you went on that threshold in life, when you step out, that's where you're at. Okay. And so maybe you didn't do the right decisions. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're afraid to live. You know, there's a lot of that. You know, we've had so many spirits that are attached to things, you know.
Yeah, we know.
Going to a pawn shop. Going into an antique shop. It's amazing what's hanging around. And so in that, now they're stuck energetically to a certain flavor of energy. So if you're an alcoholic in life,
they would be attracted. But do you suppose the purpose of stepping into that body, the idea is they want to relive it, but they knock the person out is what happens.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. Oh, I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
I remember playing. It was funny. We did a benefit for somebody, and the person had a kind of an addiction problem, and the person died from an overdose. And so we were playing this benefit for his wife and his kids, and I'm up on stage, and all of a sudden it's like, and I don't drink because of these kinds of things, you know. And all of a sudden, I never wanted to drink so bad my whole life. I'm just standing there. So what's going on, you know? And it just got worse.
That guy walks in.
And then all of a sudden it dawned on me. He was right behind me. I felt the energy. I got the shudder. Nope, there he is.
And could you see him at that point?
Yeah.
Now, was he perceiving you, or was
He was
there a
seeing
disconnect?
my energy. He was feeling what I was capable of. He could experience me because of whatever light or energy I exude, and wanted me to go there with him.
Wow.
That actually happens.
It happens
a
a
lot.
lot. It happens a lot.
To living,
It does,
it does everybody. You'd be surprised how much paranormal stuff is out there dictating experience.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah. It's we're getting up to the bottom of the hour. See how time flies?
Wow.
We're having fun.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, that was quick.
So we are talking to Reverend Bety Cumerford and Reverend Steve Wilson. And Bety is the author of Ghost and Shamanic Tales of True Hauntings. And we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So please don't go anywhere.
Programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is supported by our members and by Natural Care Wellness Center of Elliott, Maine, keeping families healthy through chiropractic care, nutritional counseling, and massage therapy. Services and scheduling information online at naturalcarewellness.com.
Supernatural Magazine, the UK's newest paranormal magazine, provides support to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. It is the magazine's goal to bring every aspect of supernatural news and research from around the world under one roof to create a universal platform for all those interested in the supernatural. More information is available at supernaturalmagazine.com. You are listening to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience on WSCA 106.1 FM, and we'll be right back after this short break.
You are tuned to WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End, and Spirit Radio will be right back in just a moment. But first, from the community calendar, the Rye Public Library will welcome local flute ensemble quintet Kamala Sound for a musical celebration of the season on Thursday, December 11th at 4:30 p.m. Kamala Sound will play an assortment of world music with a holiday flair. Folks are invited to gather by the fireplace and share in the musical event. More information is available at 603-964-8401. And Lynn, you have some upcoming guests.
Yes, I do. Our upcoming guest list starts with December 5th. Robert Snow was a former captain and a detective on the Indianapolis Police Force for about approximately 30 years, and he's written 15 books to date, and he's going to be visiting with us to discuss his latest book, which is Portrait of a Past Life Skeptic. December 12th, we're welcoming back Bob and Betty Luca, and they're returning to discuss, to continue our discussion from October 10 about their abduction experiences as chronicled in the 5 books by Raymond E. Fowler. December 19th, we have a new guest, and this is Alex Matsuo, and she's an actress from, I believe it's New York City now, and she has also authored 3 books, and she'll be joining us to discuss The Haunting of the 10th Avenue Theater. And then December 26th, we are taking off, so there won't be a show on the 26th. And that wraps up our upcoming guest list.
All right, so back to tonight. We have in studio with us tonight Betty and Steve, and we have a caller on the line who would like to ask a question. Jim from Hampton, go ahead.
Hi, I'm enjoying your talk here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question that's right up your alley.
We'll try to answer.
I'm intrigued.
No, yeah, I've done some paranormal investigation. I won't say with who for confidentiality, but
We're psychic. We'll figure it out. I'm just
We've
teasing.
told him, Jim.
I'm teasing you.
the question is, if you're familiar with autoimmune diseases, like lupus, rheumatoid
Yep.
arthritis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you have something like that and you encounter paranormal activity, can that knock your immune system down? Encountering
Definitely. You'd be surprised how much of our energetic system in our living bodies is actually affected by things that are hanging around. Think about it this way. How does the chemical sections of your body work? They work by an energetic release from your mind to a gland. Next thing you know, you're having these chemicals go through your body. Well, what we've learned along the way is there's so many people out there that have this energetic experience from outside themselves, and as it comes to them, whether it be a spirit or even the living for that fact, all of a sudden, why am I feeling this? What am I experiencing? It's very subconscious, and all of a sudden you switch to your mind. Last time I felt this is what it meant, and all of a sudden you're going to this place where your body starts to react. Now the next thing that usually happens is that heavier, lower vibration of whatever's hanging around actually comes into your auric field, for lack of a better word, and you feel very heavy. There's been a couple hundred times where we've had to rescue people that were actually overshadowed by ghosts or spirits, and the next thing you know, they're becoming ill. And it's as simple as moving the energy out of their body. Now there's a word for this in every single culture, this energy, this experience that we all develop in life and take with us into the dead zone, if you want to call it that. Down in South America, they call it a rutum. Native Americans, the great mystery. The Asian arts, the chi. The Mongolians call it the wind horse. In Christianity, we have the Holy Spirit. But it's this energy that comes to us, and when it's heavy, it doesn't feel good. Like an example we use is I'm gonna have to bring up Walmart here. I walk into Walmart and I feel like I weigh 500 pounds.
Do you really? You get a negative energy
it's
from
that
it?
Intense.
Do you feel that it has something to do with the employees in particular and the way they're treated, or do you think it's everything?
There's this little this thing that people don't realize. Every thought and every feeling that you have leaves your body as an energy, and empathic people feel that all the time. So a lot of teenagers, a lot of kids are having a lot of problems right now. The mental health community is trying to come up with a way to medicate that away, and it's not working. Yeah. But it's the same thing with the paranormal. With the spirit world, they left with whatever energy they developed in their system. Now they're walking around trying to keep that going. They don't have a body to get it, so they have to get it from people and places and things.
But why Walmart in particular?
Have you been to Walmart lately?
I mean, we hate to pick on Walmart because they sell
our book. We have to be nice to them.
but if I go in and I just focus and get what I need to get, I'm fine. But if I go in there and I'm like, I start wandering around, it's like,
So it has more to do with the customers as well as perhaps the whole dynamics.
yeah, and
of
it's like things like
Walmart.
things anchor. Like we like to go to Gettysburg and practice this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
different experience down there. That photographic imprint where there was so much trauma, you can actually feel
Yeah.
that there. There's actually very little paranormal stuff in Gettysburg. A lot of it's just that energy that got left there. There is some, but it was amazing how on different sides between the North and the South, you could feel the different energies of the different kinds of experiences. And the South was more paranormal, and the North was probably more of the photographic imprint. And
So anyway, Jim, does that answer your question? Is there anything else?
Yeah, that pretty well does. The reason I asked is because on more than one occasion after being involved in a quote-unquote ghost hunt, I've mysteriously come down ill, like with a respiratory thing or a cold or something afterwards,
yeah, and if a lower, we're very vibrant living beings, and the stronger your vibration is, the more healthy you feel. Like we go back to that whole depressed and love kind of feeling. Love's light as a feather, and you're cruising along, you're all buzzy inside, and depressed, you're like, ugh. And then if you're depressed, you tend to get more illness kinds of things coming to you.
Well, do you suppose that some of that energy is being like they're kind of like tapping into your energy in
definitely.
order
Definitely,
to
yeah.
manifest
All the time.
Okay, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just they need the energy.
We don't look at anything as negative,
Right.
and so you think about it. And this is the thing we've kind of been figuring out along.
Well,
the
the
way.
intent has a lot to do with it, but whether they're
Most-
negative or positive, it's kind of like they do need to draw from you.
And it's an eat or be eaten world.
Yeah,
We do
yeah.
it, and so you hate to say it that way, but our world is kind of designed that way from this energy thing and this need to get it. Even nature works that way. And we learn that very deeply in shamanism as we practice it. And so the one thing we learned along the way really intensely is you never give in to the emotional context of a spirit.
It's debilitating.
You have to really hold what you call your space. And so if something attaches and drags you down, all of a sudden you're feeling their feelings, you're hearing their thoughts, you're experiencing it. So people go into this thing, protect, gotta keep it away, this kind of stuff. That doesn't work either half the time, because what happens is you're using your own energy to dictate a fear out in front of you, and sooner or later it doesn't work. And learn that the hard way growing up. I learned everything on the face of the planet about protecting myself. You name it, reading books and being taught stuff. It came down to when I got to the place where I wasn't afraid of it and I could keep my energy high, no worries. And so we watch this all the time. Something attaches, you get drained out. If you're getting drained out, you don't have an energy in your system, and then the next thing it happens, then all of a sudden you're getting sick, you're getting cold. Fibromyalgia is a big one of those kinds of things. Any of those autoimmune kind of things, aches and pains. I remember being in the doctor's office. There was like 10 people there that were all having heart problems, young, old, and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm seeing the spirits all around and people that have died of heart attacks.
And they're feeling it.
And they're feeling it.
We felt it,
Yeah.
when we've had a spirit that's died of a heart attack, all of a sudden we feel like we're having a heart attack.
Yeah, I know sometimes you get the mimic.
Yeah.
Jim,
Well,
one of
when
the, what it could be is that you've got attachments that died a certain way and you're feeling it. And what we really believe in is grounding. I don't know if you've ever heard of grounding, how to ground, how to move the energy out of you. Is Jim still there?
Jim, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Have you ever...
When you live with an autoimmune system disease, you're always walking in kind of a tightrope between sick and well anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Try grounding. Grounding is very simple because that'll get the energy moving if you have gone in an investigation and you've picked up something. And it's very simple. All you do is you picture a red ball, just, little ball about a foot beneath the soles of your feet. And you just keep your focus on that ball. And believe it or not, you will start to feel the energy moving through you. And what we say is don't judge the energy because you're giving it a job to do. As soon as you judge energy or whatever you're feeling, it is what it is. It's just energy. And just focus on that red ball. You may feel your feet tingling a little bit, and the energy will just move through you. And it's that simple.
Okay, so give that a try.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jim.
Thank you for the call.
And I'm enjoying your program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not that crazy.
Okay, so if anybody else wants to call and talk to Betty or Steve, it's 603-430-9722.
Now, we were talking about the soldier who was met by his buddies. Well, in that same house, there were some other entities there. And Betty and Steve were going to tell us about this young teenage boy that was depressed, and he was medicated, and he had an attachment.
Correct. And that was a little bit more intense than your average street ghost, that particular attachment. And I think the hardest part of this for us been along the way is, as much as we know and as much as we wish to help, there's still this free will clause in life, okay? And what that is choice, and everybody has that, and you can't take that away from anybody. So, we get into these dialogues with people about, if somebody doesn't want to leave as a spirit, you can't make them leave. And I'll get into that in a minute, but not so much as a living person. A living person's still making choices to have some kind of experience of life. And so in this particular one, we did what we do. He felt the energy. It's like, oh my God, I never felt this great my whole life, and all this other stuff. But misery loves company. And sometimes, the devil's in the details. This particular person went right back to where he was, and it just came right back that quick. So the healing process for the physical has to happen in 4 places: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So you have to attract the healing for all 4 of those places. But
where do you find the strength to start getting on that path and stay on it?
what choice do you have? I mean,
it's awfully, sometimes when people are really depressed and they're on medication, it's hard to get out of that place.
It is very hard. I went through that really, in my teenage years.
So what would be the first step?
I just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and just for some
Tired to notch it up a bit.
And for some reason, God, universe, however you look at it, just somebody came into my life and I just switched.
But what about this young boy? How would you counsel him, or what would you say to him to get him out of that spot to look in a different direction and change his attitude somehow?
You got to go back to those 4 places: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. The emotions are actually really easy to move in a person because emotions are a barometer. If you're having a bad day, you're having a bad emotion. If you're having a good day, you're having a good emotion.
Well, that kid's having a bad life.
Yeah, but it's really, emotions are just water and chemicals. And so I got into this thing, shamanism, a long time ago, and it talks about the 4 elements, air, earth, fire, and water, and earth, and that analogies and everything. It's even in the Bible, when you read Revelations, it's in there. So I was really intrigued by that. And so I started to have these understandings of how energy works. And so water, emotions, what are we mostly made out of? Water. Okay. So the chemical part of the experience in your body makes you feel a certain way. So what I started to learn along the way from actually the paranormal is when a spirit was coming to me, I would feel the energy of the spirit, say they were sad. And all of a sudden this sadness would be coming at me. I could actually feel it coming and get into my body. And all of a sudden I'm having this extremely over the top physical sad experience. Then all of a sudden one day it clicked on me. It's like, oh, I don't have to. And the energy of sadness came to me from another spirit, and it came into me. Instead of judging it as good or bad, like a barometer of whether it was something was going on, it just went right through my body. Went right through my feet,
through your body,
right through me, just gone. And all of a sudden, I'm not sad anymore. And a lot of that along the way. And so the blessing in the paranormal experience, even all the crazy stuff growing up, is I started to learn how we have this ability to experience this energy and what to do with it. Emotions is usually the first part for a lot of people, and it's not that hard. And it's hard to say that when somebody is emotional. But
did you counsel that young boy?
Yes, we
oh,
did.
yes.
Okay.
Over and over and over again.
Oh, several times.
Yeah.
But it's free choice.
Yeah,
It's his
free
choice.
choice.
Did any luck? Did he kind of change his attitude?
Yeah.
Well, not in recent
Not
memory
really, no.
anyway.
We've had other, it's like you try to get to people before they get on medication.
Yeah.
We had another
It's
one.
tough.
We get a phone call to go to a pretty big psychotherapy hospital around here. I won't get into it. We know some therapists, and this particular person, she was in her 20s and she was hearing voices and she wanted them to go away. And so next thing you know, she's getting locked up because she broke into a church and was looking for somebody to help her. And so we get the phone call late at night and we went down and sure enough, right behind her, there's a spirit. And he's just jabbering away in her ear. And he was a minister, actually, believe it or not.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Did you see that too, Bety?
Plain as day.
Yes.
And so we're doing our thing, and he's giving her all this religious information, telling her how special she was going to be and what she was going to do and all this other stuff. And so, knowing what I know, I started kind of like, well, that's not true. And I was kind of calling him on it. And it took a little while, but we got him to go away. He gave up, and off he was gone. But she missed him.
She missed him, and she missed that feeling of being special. And he came back.
Right back.
Came back.
I'll be darned. A minister you would expect to, have a better grip on spirituality than that. You'd
around.
expect.
I mean, it's and you hate to look at the world that way, but we all have what we're working on.
We all have our foibles. I realize that.
I'm working on things.
Well, then, that brings us to the one of the preachers that in one of your stories we were talking about that I think you mentioned. Can we mention the town?
We probably best leave it alone.
Okay. So in
Massachusetts.
Somewhere in Massachusetts, and this spirit was hovering around this house. It used to be a boarding house.
Correct.
And there was a soldier spirit there, and I'd like to talk about him too. But how did you get in touch with the preacher and what he did to the town?
Well, it started off as a phone call for us to go to this place. It was actually a Marine that was living in this house.
That's right, yeah.
Him and his wife and a young child.
Their daughter was seeing things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of depression, very depressed.
Who was?
The Marine.
The Marine, and he would have
because of his arm.
Yeah, he'd have these horrible pains in his arm, and he'd been to doctor after doctor, and they couldn't find anything.
That's so mystifying.
Yeah. So we show up, and right off the bat, the second we get there, there's this soldier in kind of like old clothes from World War II.
World War II.
Yeah, and he was missing an arm. You could see him plain as day, and he wasn't communicating. He was just kind of there, but the energy of him was very, very sad. And so we did our thing and kind of worked that down, and come to find out there was actually a suicide in this house. So a lot of stuff. So we worked it all down, and all of a sudden, in the middle of doing what we do, this thing came up. One of the girls saw like dollar bills hanging on a clothesline. That was the vision she had, and it was a really neat vision. I was like, "What's up with that?" So
dollar bills on the clothesline.
yeah, and so we kind of went into that a little bit deeper, and the next thing you know, we're seeing this minister, and a couple of other girls saw it too, with all these people around, and they're all like pointing at him, all these spirits, so the whole house just filled up.
Oh, that's
it's like
funny.
we opened up a door. And,
Okay.
And so we went and did our thing, and so we cleared it out pretty good, and everybody's happy, and then this is one of those ones where we did a lot of historical work, and come to find out there was actually a thing that happened in town. Yeah.
Let me stop you right there. Didn't you do the research on that, Bety?
Yes, I did.
And where did you go? Did you go to the town records?
Actually, I didn't. One of our members did.
Oh, one of your members did.
She did the research. She went to the town records and
Some diaries or letters or something
Yes.
too?
It had just been discovered, this diary.
Okay.
That revealed the fact that the minister, there was a group of people that wanted to buy the farmland so that they could develop it.
Some industrialists.
Yes.
Yes.
And the minister got involved with them. There would be a kickback to the minister if he could convince the farmers
to sell their
the
land.
land to the industrialists.
So there's the laundering money
and
kind of thing.
and he would air dirty laundry
Yeah.
of his what do they
His,
call it? His
con-
congregation.
congregation,
in
yeah.
order for them to
cave in and
cave
sell.
in and and that was the vision that the girl had, the money on the sheets.
And the neat thing was he was stuck there, but it was more so the people all around him that he was selling down the river were still stuck there because they wanted retribution.
Yeah, isn't that funny the way one feeds off the
Oh, yeah.
other?
It's
And
great.
then he tried to prevent you guys from revealing what the
Oh, yeah.
situation was.
He
So
got a
how
little
did
cranky.
how did he mask it?
It's when all these
You
things,
just couldn't get the information from him.
no, and
Was-
it's the hard part of all this stuff is when when we tick somebody off in the spirit world, and it happens a lot of time. It
does.
we call it the fly paper syndrome. They actually attach to us, and we're okay with that, believe it or not, because once they attach, they're bumming. they have to go through the process with us. And so it's this thing that we do where we actually move the energy through us. And the madder they get, the more energy they lose, because they're not getting energy anymore because we're not giving it to them.
Yep.
And so that's a big teaching tool for this. So when people go into paranormal places and things and they try to elicit fear and anger and all this other stuff just to attract the ghosts, you're just making it stronger.
Yes, because you're giving your energy whenever you bait them.
Sure.
And that seems to be the thing on television now. You know, they go in and they antagonize them to get a reaction.
I find that so annoying.
You're leaking your energy too hard.
It gets ratings, right?
It does. It's all
it does
drama.
get ratings, but it's disrespectful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but think about the world right now. You know, in the big picture, what kind of a message
I can
is
see
that
why
sending?
it happens,
You know,
but
crowds do that. You know, living crowds, they just happen.
people are spiteful.
Let me just throw in here, we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left.
Okay. Well, Bety, is there another investigation that is particularly close to your heart that you wanted to talk about?
Very briefly, there was a World War I soldier. He actually attached to my mother.
Did he?
And she started seeing explosions. And my husband, who doesn't believe in any of this stuff, thought she was having a heart attack. We figured out it was an attachment. And to make a long story short, he had been blown up during the war. And he had cursed God. And he was terrified now on the other side to go because he said, I cursed God. I didn't believe in him anymore, and he's going to hate me. And so it was some counseling to get him to understand it doesn't matter. It's okay to go. And he finally did go. It was very emotional.
Oh, I bet it was. So did you hold the counseling sessions at your house?
At my house.
Where your mother was?
Right.
And how long did that take?
It took probably about 45 minutes talking to him to help him to let go.
One session? Or
Yeah,
did
to
you...
let go, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it, another quick story, we actually got invited to a nursing home, a pretty big, highfalutin one, and we were going from room to room, and it was like there was a spirit in front of every single room. It's like, and we're getting the story and all the information, and it was taking a lot of time, and all of a sudden we all heard at the same time, stop. You don't have enough time to be doing these one at a time. And
Everybody has a story.
everybody has
You don't
a
have
story.
time.
So we started to develop it to the next stage of just...
Why were you brought in, though? I mean, was it
There
just
were
one
some-
individual, or...
There were some things happening, things being knocked off of tables and stuff like that.
Okay, so
And
they
it
didn't expect you to canvass the whole place, did they?
couldn't help it. As soon as you walk into a place that's that haunted, here
get
they
a
show.
sale.
There they come.
Okay.
So now
So you couldn't do it.
No, we could do it.
We could.
But the thing is, it's like it's a timing thing. It's like instead of trying to do one at a time and get all the stories, it's like now we're just learning more to just switch the vibration overall and not worry about the story as much. Just bring ourselves up and bring the spirits with us. So it's like creating a container that feels safe so people can let go of their stuff.
So have you seen anything in here?
I haven't really been paying attention.
I
haven't
haven't
seen
either.
nothing.
That's cool. I think there's a guy back there.
Check the back room before you
Okay.
leave.
I'm there's ghosts everywhere. You don't have
That's
to look.
true. That's true, I
It's crazy
know.
out there right now.
All right,
Boy,
well,
thank you. That's an incredible story. Both of you.
No,
Yeah,
thank you for
we-
having us.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Okay, Bety Cumerford and Steve Wilson, and from the Spirit Light Network. And we thank you very much for coming. You want to tell people where they can buy the book, how they can get in touch with you?
We actually have 2 books out, as you said, the Ghost one and The Reluctant Empath, which is for empaths out there who don't know how to deal with their gift. We have a new one coming out,
idea.
The Empath's Quest, which will be out in 2016. You can buy it on Barnes & Noble online, Amazon online, Schiffer Publishing.
You guys are cranking. That's great.
Our 4th book's actually starting right now, but it's all on this kind of
It's
stuff.
all on ghosts and empaths.
It's
All
about
right.
teaching how to handle these kinds of things. You know?
Oh, that's fabulous. And you said your website already, right?
www.sacredhealinggrove.com. That's the yurt, and there's Cumerfordwilson.com, which is our writer website.
Okay.
Okay, Bety and Steve, we thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank
Truly,
you.
thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
It's been a pleasure.
And that is Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience for another week. And Craig Mosier with the Graveyard Shift is coming right up.
And thanks, everyone, for listening. Have a good evening.